across the Midlands, and Birmingham's had quite a lot of cases. Actually, Nottingham is pretty average, I think, in terms of the number of cases. So whilst we have had plenty of cases, we're not been as severely affected as Birmingham or London. And I think, again, there are sort of pockets of high numbers of cases. So it does vary across the region.
And it sounds like we've hit, touch wood, we've hit the worst of it for the first peak. That's encouraging to see that the number of cases is slowly starting to come down on a day-by-day basis.
What you say is quite correct. My impression from dealing with patients in the Nottingham hospitals is that the number of cases coming through from the community is definitely going down, and we're not seeing a big increase in the number of cases requiring critical care at the moment. And the national figures, which I'm sure you've seen, suggest that figures are stable or falling slowly, which is encouraging.
Absolutely, it's positive signs, but I've seen quite a few people in the past couple of days, in terms of generally speaking, about members of the public starting to become a little bit impatient as to when we're going to hear, kind of like when lockdown measures will be lifted and that kind of thing. But I'm guessing the measures can't be lifted until we see a big reduction, that it's clear and obvious that we are past this peak, and it's absolutely right that we get the measures right the other side, or else we could see another second peak and cases go back up.
The risks of releasing the lockdown steps too early will be a re-emergence of cases and a second wave of disease, and that has two potential consequences. The first is that it will stop us getting our normal services in the hospitals completely back to normal, because one has to remember that we've concentrated so much effort on COVID-19 that a lot of other routine medical care, which would otherwise be ongoing, has had to be reduced so we're still doing a lot of the urgent work, like the cancer work, but if you're waiting to have a hip replacement, then you won't have been able to come in to have it done. So there are consequences from that point of view. So I think that we had to be cautious in terms of making sure we don't produce another huge peak. Unfortunately, until we have a vaccine, I don't think this disease is going to go away completely, which means that the key to releasing lockdown will be to have effective identification of new cases as and when they arise, and very rapid quarantining of those cases and their immediate contacts. And that's been really difficult, because the best way of doing that will be if we had a simple blood test, which you could say, yes, you've been exposed, so this is a sort of antibody type test that people have been looking at. But whilst they're reasonably reliable in the long term, unfortunately in the very short term so far they've proven to have less sensitivity than we would like, and that's going to make it quite difficult to use those tests to identify contacts at an early point. So I think it's going to be a very complicated process releasing lockdown, and I think we have to be cautious that we don't do it too soon, because we might end up with having to restart the whole thing again, which would obviously be unfortunate.